Lowell Windstrom, the Subspace Meditator, returning again for another video on Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, most of you by now may have realized that in my last analysis of The Force Awakens, I did a review and investigation from my perspective of the male characters of the movie. And of course, as you probably realize by now, I left out Finn. Well, I wanted to do an analysis of Finn in this particular investigation, and I did not leave him out by mistake, and I left him out on purpose because I wanted to do a separate section on Finn due to the fact that my analysis of him, while it is intricately tied to the rest of this discussion, is long and involved, and therefore I thought I would separate the information because of that. So let's get started. I call this next investigation Star Wars The Force Awakens Part 1A, The Finn Factor. Now, on my blog, talagzionparticle.blogspot.com, you will see the entire analysis, and of course, I will include a link in the description box to this particular article on The Force Awakens. But anyway, I want to read this to you as I did before, and as I said before with the last one, the first part, this will not be something that I'm just talking off the cuff, although from time to time I may insert something. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read my analysis to you in the hopes that that will be a bit more thoughtful than just me talking off the cuff about things. So here we go. The first section, let's start with that. Finn, the Black Stormtrooper Magic Negro controversy. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the concept of the Magic Negro, I'm going to include a description of that, or should I say a link for that, in the description box. And you can follow that link in order to read up on what the Magic Negro is. Essentially, however, the Magic Negro is a long-standing caricature of black people, particularly black males, in American television and film, who essentially assists the white hero in some kind of magical or perhaps supernatural or supernormal way, basically becoming a sidekick, if you will, to the white hero. But there's more about that at the link that you will see in the low bar. So, from the announcement of his character all the way to opening day, a big deal was made about the personality of Finn, as played quite elegantly by John Boyega. The biggest conflagration centered around why a black had to be in the lead and why, presumably, he was to be the individual in whom the Force would awaken. The constant advertising for The Force Awakens consistently led many to believe that it was the character Finn who would be the center of the story, and perhaps around whom a new Jedi Order would arise via the training of Master Luke Skywalker. To be on clear footing, the anger over a black superstar at the heart of Star Wars did exist, but was from a minority of vocal opponents and was not shared by most, including this writer. In fact, like most celebrants, I welcomed the idea of another strong black male character and looked forward to seeing his hero's journey to the Force. This, however, turned out to be a clever marketing deception created to misdirect the expectations of hot-to-trot fans and, I dare say, preserve Disney's gotcha surprise bait-and-switch of non-Force-sensitive Finn for Super Force-adept Rey. And this is why, in advertisement after advertisement, it is Finn, and not Rey, who is seen holding and wielding a lightsaber. Finn, as main protagonist and hero, turns out to be a complete falsehood, as the last 30 or so minutes of the film ultimately reveals, though many breadcrumbs are dropped along the way to clue us in. However, this particular gripe is not about preserving mere surprises of the storyline, but about fooling the fan base, the the subspace meditator suggests to serve a larger yet more subtle agenda. It is that agenda which I flesh out more in part 2 of this meditation, which I will be reading for you later and then posting for you a bit later, but that is already up at my Talaxion Particle blogspot, so if you want to go ahead and read it, you certainly can. But for now, let's go ahead and analyze Finn a bit further. In real-world terms, Finn's ostensible purpose is to prove the diversity of the galaxy far, far away, to embrace the fact that humans in space aren't just lily white, and further that non-white humans are capable of more than being a sidekick to the white hero. But a sidekick is exactly what Finn turns out to be, and upon inspection he turns out to be far, far less. In the beginning of the story, his character is portrayed as an elite stormtrooper with a conscience who faces a moral dilemma and thus must choose which side he will serve. And this choice is a powerful moment for the character and one that opens up a host of possibilities for his long-term development. However, this angle is given bare-bones service. The story later reveals that Finn is not, after all, one of the First Order's elite, but a sanitation worker who just happens to also don stormtrooper armor from time to time, and who just happens to mysteriously know very, very important things about the First Order's prime weapon, Star Killer Base. How he, a janitor, is supposed to know such things is not even mentioned. He just does so that somehow he can at last become important to the audience. Though he is marketed as such, in this movie Finn is no hero in any real sense of the term, but instead an inveigler. Han Solo recognizes him as such with his line, "Women always find out the truth, always." He is a coward and a kiss-up to the female lead. He is the comedic relief of the show, and though this is executed quite well from an onlooker's perspective and is certainly reflected well in Boyega's performance, Finn is obviously out of his element in the course of events and using humor to hide both his fear and lack of resolve. He spends the majority of his time trying to find ways to run away from peril or rescue Rey and gain her approval, even after she's repeatedly demonstrated that she doesn't want his help nor is interested in his romantic overtures. Now, I have to say here that much of this is my opinion and in my interpretation of things on the screen, and I'm sure you might disagree with some or perhaps even all of this analysis, but I will stand by what I've said here until other information comes my way suggesting otherwise, and perhaps, of course, that might even mean waiting until episode 8 to see how this guy is ultimately portrayed, fleshed out, but we'll see. This is what I saw for now when I looked at Finn on the movie screen. But anyway, continuing. But to see only these characteristics, that is, these knock-kneed, weak, cowardly characteristics in Finn, to see only these characteristics is to miss the greater mark behind Finn's inclusion. For sure, he is no Lando Calrissian and certainly no Mace Windu, but he is the type of male that feminist social justice warriors can go for. A pussy-whipped man who worships the ground women walk on, who plays second fiddle to an overbearingly strong female who herself steals the show from men and is, superficially at least, flawless and above reproach. Who herself steals the show from men, I said that already, didn't I? In nearly every scene involving himself and Rey, Finn is given second-class treatment and shown as less decisive, less courageous, and less competent than she. Finn's insertion was not about degrading the black male per se, as much as it was about exalting the female lead by using the black male of the show as proxy. It is his purpose to elevate the main woman character, Rey, to near goddess-like perfection, to pedestalize her above the earth and sky in order to fit the feminist paradigm. To this end, the dude's near lack of real development and his overall purpose as a character was for little more than as a tool to make Rey look so totally awesome and badass that she completely overshadows him from the very first encounter to the very end. And there are several examples of this in the movie, from Finn trying to take her hand when they're being attacked on Jakku by the First Order, and she, constantly ripping her hand away, to her just automatically knowing things about the Millennium Falcon and other stuff. We'll get into that later in part 2 of my analysis, because there are some other examples that I do point out. Anyway, in these aspects, Finn is a representation of the Magic Negro, and beyond this, what some call a mangina or white knight. Love-struck Finn will do anything for his sweetie Rey, and it is clear from their exchange on board the Millennium Falcon that Finn has developed a certain level of affection for Rey that he carries all the way through the rest of the movie. And in the culmination of his trouble, the grand prize of his Herculean efforts is a friend-zone hug from her in a thanks for not abandoning the fight moment inside Maze Kanata's cantina. And yet, for the rest of the story, Finn continues to chase his honeypot across the galaxy because he simply refuses to leave her no matter what. Anything that happened, and I assert this, and I think I probably can be quite persuasive in arguing this fact, that anything really that happened in The Force Awakens could have proceeded so with or without Finn. He was just that inconsequential. And to me, therefore, any outrage by those with prejudice in their hearts about a black male lead who gets the white girl of the story, who becomes the epic hero of the story, quite frankly, I believe that kind of prejudice, that kind of outrage was quite frankly absorbed by the much bigger agenda in this story, which was the feminist agenda, the gynocentric agenda that I believe was present in this story, which I flesh out further in part 2. But let's continue. Of course, not all black men are strong and do not have to be shown in fictional stories as such. However, some inkling of the hero's journey should have been seen in Finn, as he is the second lead protagonist. Some elements of him finding his purpose separate and distinct from his association with Rey or on her behalf should have been portrayed, but quite frankly they were not. But there is a way to remedy this, my people, and it doesn't mean Finn bosoming up to Rey. Take a listen to me. And this is where I, quite frankly, depart from, the analysis of Finn as such, as what we saw in the movie, to something that I hope that he will become later on as episodes 8 and 9 continue and progress. At least I'm hoping that the writers are going to be smart enough to recognize that this guy was very weak. He was very inconsequential to the story, making him to be nothing more than quite frankly, a representation of a lot of stereotypes that black people have protested against for years in science fiction and in film in general. Was really not the way to show inclusion, especially in a fictional film where you have the entire Frelling universe and you still show, quite frankly, in my opinion, black people as they have been stereotypically represented in this country for decades in American film and television. I think that is a very, very narrow perspective to look at, especially when you have an entire galaxy, an entire universe that is your canvas. But let's go on. There is a way to remedy this, in my opinion. Though some actually criticize the idea, and I have heard people criticize this idea on the internet, especially those black people who saw the film, some of them anyway. And this is the idea. At this pace, it would be better for Finn to be seen in the next installment actually getting some action from a sexy space alien chick. And I personally would have no problem with this. After all, Captain Kirk of Star Trek fame, the original series, made out with many intergalactic honeys in his time with no incompatibility issues on the interspecies mating tip. From green-skinned lovelies with great belly buttons to gray-toned beauties with tails, James T. Kirk lacked for nothing in the universe's manifestation of feminine diversity. His experience was bountiful. So what would be wrong with friend-zone Finn hooking up with a blue-bodied baby doll with awesome curves? Why should the spacefaring white guys have all the fun? Moreover, it's a big galaxy. Why should Finn limit his horizons only to the white human female? Should he genuflect to Rey just because she's in close proximity? Hell no, of course not. She isn't the only game in the stars. However, and this is going to be some controversy to some of you, and I hope it is, quite frankly. However, not either should he be paired up with a black female space jockey, because that also is too simplistic and is what everyone would expect. And quite frankly, it's too comfortable. It would too easily satisfy black critics who'd see Finn cozying up to white Rey as an insult to black pride and him getting with a sister as only more condescending tokenism. and would just as too conveniently be an out for white supremacist insulted at a black man stealing another one of their women. No, make the audience think, and in the doing, perhaps make them all uncomfortable. That's what I'd like to see. Make everybody in the theater squirm for a change. Take risks, which is what novel films are supposed to do. So saying screw it to both of these easy answers is the right way to bring Finn back and let him stretch his horizons and see all the galaxy would have him see. The cheeky humor of my proposal aside, I really do think it's a great idea. And though I do not want to see Finn's character polluted into a sexual degenerate nor Star Wars into an X-rated freak show, it would be nice to see him get some meaningful nuances to his character in the form of a smooth-talking playboy who grows a set of cojones rather than a pussified mangina afraid of the whole universe. Also, giving Finn some of those Han Solo bad boy qualities would be a splendid way to atone for killing off that iconic character in this Episode 7. I'll leave that word aside. Finn, obtaining a ship of his own and pursuing a critical subplot of Episode 8 with his new alien space babe in tow would be a great redemption for the cowardly lion we observed in The Force Awakens. And to avoid the feminist bull hockey, his new girlfriend doesn't need to be the one rescuing him from every hidden danger around the corner either. They should share responsibility for each other. Finn doing his own independent thing more than some casual horizontal Hulu or one-off smooch with Rey would show audiences that the black man is definitely capable of being more than the sidekick or mere shadow of the white lead. He can explore the galaxy by himself, get into and out of hotspots by himself, and build great relations with the universe's many peoples on his own terms. This is what you want to see a black inclusion in science fiction, is it not? This is what sci-fi geeks, male and female, have been longing for ages, isn't it? A black person who can meet the challenge of space exploration without having to be guided by a patronizing white hand? And that, of course, is not limited to mere romantic indulgence, though that has been our example here, but to all endeavors of sophistication and significance in science fiction and beyond. As not only a black man in sci-fi, but more as a rogue stormtrooper searching for a righteous cause, Finn has awesome potential. If it is developed properly, this character can be one of the most endearing and beloved, and if not beloved, then at least controversial, in Star Wars history. He can take a place right beside, if not superior, to both Lando Calrissian and Mace Windu. Spin-off stories and even films could one day be created about him, but he must be developed appropriately now, starting with Episode 8, correcting the dumbassery he was wrapped in with The Force Awakens. Finn can be redeemed, big time, but it's up to us as fans to demand the writers give this guy a fair and proper shake at being a true hero, just like Luke Skywalker, Lando Calrissian, Mace Windu, or Han Solo, and not another marginalized Magic Negro. We'll talk about the feminist agenda that I believe is very present in Star Wars The Force Awakens in our next installment. Until then, we'll see you next time.